For me, what worked for me was keeping the phones away from my kids. Peer pressure is real when it comes to children. In fact, that's the part I think parents also need to put an eye when it comes to kids. It's really real. It's real. Children are different, so you have to understand your kids and know how to work with them. But generally, I think we should put an eye on our children when it comes to giving them phones and allowing them to use phone. Don't just leave them to, because so many things happen that they might not even tell you.
It's another episode of your favorite family podcast, ForFamilies Podcast, with me, your host, Isabella Adediji. Please, if you are not already following ForFamilies, what are you waiting for? So before I even go on with my introduction, can you just make sure that you're subscribed? You're locked into ForFamilies Podcast across all the social media platforms, starting from YouTube. So make sure you don't just subscribe, but you tap the notification bell so that you know when the next episode drops. So if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. ForFamilies Podcast is all about family. And when you think about it, we're all part of a family. In fact, some of us are part of many families. We have our biological family, we have our spiritual family, we have our work family, our church family, our mosque family, we have our step family, we have our blended family. I mean, the list goes on and on. You can't really think about life without family. So we have conversations here. We keep it real. We don't hide our words. And I've been so blessed because my guests, they're so honest, they're so open, they're vulnerable. They say it as it is. And that's because we want to help families have great experiences. We want to help families not make the same mistakes that some of us have made, and our ancestors and our grandparents and our parents have made, and just to navigate some challenges that are coming up. Like today now, you're raising a child. Do you know what you have to deal with? You have to deal with technology. You have to deal with AI. You have to deal with social media. You have to deal with metaverse. It's like every day there's a new one. When I was growing up in the 80s, the early 90s, I mean, we didn't really have technology like that. I mean, it was there. There was a computer. TV will start with the national anthem, which was Arise, O Compatriots then, no, not Nigeria, we hail thee. And I would say that our access to technology was nothing like what it is now. And that's a huge challenge because my children probably know how to use a device more than my mom, because different generations, they are digital natives. And as much as there are advantages of having these devices to make our lives easier, faster, simpler, there are also dangers when it comes to unfettered access to social media, when it comes to peer pressure. How many likes do you have? Who is following you on TikTok? Filters, body confidence. Like, it's like a whole new bag, a Pandora box that has been opened, and sometimes it's challenging. So I'm really excited about today's conversation. Like I said, if you're not already locked into ForFamilies Podcast, make sure that you lock in, you sit back, you relax, enjoy your popcorn, because it promises to be a great show. I'm really excited about today's guest and what we're going to be discussing, because, I mean, she's a fan of ForFamilies Podcast. And you know what I love? I love it when people are not silent. When people say, look, I love what you are doing. I want to be a part of this. I want to contribute to the conversation. And then they come correct. Because, I mean, how many people do you know that have been married for not one, not 5, not 10, but 2 decades, 20 years married? I mean, put some respect on that. She's been married for 20 years, has 3 children, and she's still pursuing her career. She hasn't let family, she hasn't let marriage, motherhood stop her. She's a creative entrepreneur with experience, not just in events, but in sugar crafts. So when it comes to yummy, delicious banana cake, nicely decorated cakes, your confectionery, and then putting together beautiful events, our guest is none other than the founder, the chief madam, the CEO, the creative lead, the gbogbo of S02E06 Events and Cakes. Cakes and events.
Yes,
S02E06 Events and Cakes.
That's correct.
Ijeoma Ezikpe. Yes. Welcome, Ijeoma,
so
to ForFamilies
Thank
Podcast.
Thank you so much.
We always like to give our guests that royal treatment. So yes, S02E06, which stands for IJ's house.
Yes,
That's
house.
French. Yes. So IJ's house is full of goodies. Tell her that I sent you. Well done. Well
Thank you so
done.
much. Thank you.
I'm glad you're here. I mean, first of all, congratulations. 20 years, that's 2 decades.
Wow,
I mean,
thank you.
that's a testimony, because a lot of times some marriages don't last up to 2 years.
That's
and now you're saying not 2, but you've added 0 on
That's
it.
true, that's
20
true.
years. So I think there's so much we can learn from you. And then also the fact you have 3 children, different ages, and I'm sure you've had to deal with this whole social media technology. Mommy, all my friends have phones. All my friends are on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok. Mommy, I want to be on my phone instead of reading my books. When are you buying me the latest phone? Like, I don't even know where to start from, but I have very young kids, so they still come and, chance me for my phone, but it's not their own. Yeah. I can't now imagine what it will be like when they're like 10 or 15 or 20. So I'll start off by asking, first of all, like, in 20 years of marriage, what have you learned, and especially when it comes to raising children?
Okay, so I'll say it's different for every family. So the way I raise mine, it might not work for someone else, but I believe there's some basics that we should know, especially now we're talking about digital age. So maybe I'll streamline it to digital when it comes to technology and children. So I think when children are growing up, what I realize now is that a lot of parents give their children phone, which you really don't blame them. Some parents will say, okay, to keep them busy, this and that and all that. But for me, what worked for me was keeping the phones away from my kids. So my first daughter is 19. And she's not bothered about phones, But the second one, she's really a phone savvy kind of person. She loves to be with the phone, and I realized that, okay, so if I follow the way I trained the first one, it won't work with her. She loves phones. It's very distracting her from her books. If I got to a point in which, I think in her class, there was a boy that was trying to, get her attention. And then he put her into a group where there were a lot of maybe nude pictures. And we didn't even know that. What saved us then was that the phone she was in was her dad's phone, and it was already logged on email on his Gmail. So he was getting like the notifications of what was happening. And that's how we got to know, okay, this is what we had to call her, spoke with her. And at that point I decided, okay, I'm not going to be leaving these phones with these kids. So I started regulating when I give them the phones. I give you the phone when I know I'm not around, I need to communicate with you. But when school time starts, the phone is away. You get the phone when you're on holiday. Even when the phone is on holiday, I regulate the phone. So when I finally gave her a phone fully was when she was finishing secondary school. That was in SS2 and all that. But for the first one, it wasn't so. I think by the time she was in JSS3, I could give her phone. Whatever she's doing on her phone, she lets me know. So children are different. So you have to understand your kids and know how to work with them. But generally, I think we should put an eye on our children when it comes to giving them phones and allowing them to use phone. Don't just leave them to, because so many things happen that they might not even tell you. Like in this case, if not because of those notifications, she was scared of letting us know what was happening. So who knows how far that will have gone, So I think parents should put a regulation when it comes to their kids as regards phones and other kind of digital form tools.
It's interesting that you said it's a boy in her class that put her in this WhatsApp group. What's the school policy when it comes to phones? Like, because where is somebody in her class? That means they had this conversation in class. Should schools, and in their case, was the school's policy open to people bringing in phones, and were they also regulating what was happening on the phone? Because I can't understand if a parent says, okay, I want my child to have a phone so I can be sure of their whereabouts. But again, there needs to be some kind of control.
Yeah, so in this case, it's actually an old school. School have been existing for more than 25 years. So they have regulation. In fact, they don't bring phones to school. Bringing phones to school is not allowed. But kids and their way of doing things, they sneak it in and then they bring it into the school. So the school is not even really aware, So But I think it still boils down to parents. Most of these things still come down to the home. Yes, school have told you don't bring phones. Do you check your children's bag? Do you monitor? Many parents don't monitor what their children do. I think that's an area parents need to go back to the drawing board. Don't just leave your kids, because in this case, the school maybe will have done something better by, taking an extra, but it still goes down to the home. You as parents, how do you monitor what your children do? Like, I took out time to check what she was doing. If it's a parent that was not really, really into the kids, or maybe you don't have the time, I won't have noticed what was happening. So I think it still boils down to the home. For the school, phones were not allowed in school. So the children they normally sneak this thing into the school.
Okay, so in that case, maybe she should. In her case, is it that she gave the boy the phone number, or how?
Yeah, I think she gave her that at that point. That was when I just gave her a phone, so she gave him her phone number.
Okay.
Well, I don't think she knew what he wanted to do with her phone number.
Yes.
So she gave him the phone number, but probably kids. So that's I keep saying it boils down to the parents. Like, I don't know his parents, but I felt pained because obviously from what she was telling me, he has been doing that to other children. So obviously maybe he's in a porn group, he's in a WhatsApp group that they do a lot of those kind of stuff, and he's looking for other children to bring into it, Maybe just like I said, if I wasn't really focused on knowing what the children are doing, I wouldn't have noticed that. But according to what she told me, some other friends, not from their school, from other schools, his friends, were all part of that. You understand? So it still boils down to, okay, does the parents know what their children are doing?
It's interesting that, it was the notifications.
Yeah, that was what made us know what was happening.
Was it that is that a good thing that a parent's email should be logged on to the phone?
I think in this case that helped us. So I think it's a good thing. So that's also another way of checkmating the kids.
Yes.
So if you want to give them a phone, find a way of still monitoring what they're doing. So that was a way. After that happened, we just realized, okay, most of the phones, we tried to connect them to our Gmail. So we still monitor somehow what they do.
And how early, or when is the right age for children to have phones, to have email addresses, to have social media accounts? Because the phone is just a device, it's just the conduit, is what happens. Like having a Palasa or a 2G phone that can only maybe take text messages and make calls is not the same as a phone that can process emails, video calls, and the rest.
Yeah, so I keep saying everything comes down to the parents. There's a friend not really a friend, a colleague. So she was telling me that her kids were not doing so well in school. She noticed the phone was distracting them. She seized all their phones. She didn't give them the phone till they were done with their work, and they did very well. So she was telling me she was so proud of what she did, that, I seized their phones and I made sure they didn't have access to phone until when they were done. That was what worked for her, But for me, I think you still have to know the children and know how it works. Like my own daughter, like my son right now, he's 11. He'll be 12, soon. So, but I can't give him a phone because he easily gets addicted to something. Like right now, he loves TV. He watches. And if I give him a phone, he won't even have time. He's actually the best in his class, probably because I don't even give him too much time with most of these devices. So I'm not giving him any phone because I've known his kind of person. But like the second one, my second child, I told you, I was also very careful with her with phone because I know she loves TikTok, she loves Instagram. At an early age of 11, she wanted to have an Instagram account. I was like, no, it's going to distract you. So I was monitoring closely because I know that is the kind of interest that she has. So I didn't allow. So right now, I think it's even now that she's entering uni, I actually gave her leverage. Okay, open an account and all. Even phone. It's now that I gave her the freedom. I didn't allow her. Meanwhile, the second one, she was not even interested in Instagram. Or I gave her
the first one.
Yes, I gave her leverage, but she's not interested. In fact, for the first time, just last week, she's in 3 levels. For the first time, she was opening an Instagram account because of the kind of course she's reading. She's into arts and they requested. So you can see that children are all different. So I think as parents, you should study your children, know them and know when you can allow them. But personally, I don't think it's something we should allow early for our children because it distracts them really. It actually distracts them.
And what would you say is the role of the school in all of this? Because our children spend a lot of time in schools, and whether it's primary school, secondary school, A-levels, university, they are spending a lot of time within that school environment. They are mixing with children whose parents might allow them to have phones, and then there's peer pressure. So, you mentioned that one of the schools said no phones, but people are still sneaking it in. So
I would say schools I can't really say generally. I would say for the schools I know, My children's school, I know they don't allow. I taught in a school for 7 years. That was like some 11, 12 years ago. I was in a school environment. I was teaching S02E06. I learned something from that school. The school was in Kano. It was one of the best schools they had there in Kano, you know. So one thing I learned there, when you come to school, then when we come to school, children, then phones was not even like as common as it is now, but we search the children's bag. You know, so when I look now, I was like, if school can imbibe some of these things, it takes a lot of time anyway for the school to do that, but it helped. When you're coming into the school, from the gates, you see the teachers lined up, they search your bag. So if you're bringing phone, you know that's not going to work in this place. You can't even bring your phone into the school, because even then the menace of taking drugs was common there in the north. So that was a way of checkmating the children if you're coming in with drugs, all this thing. So they check their bags. So you can't find, in that school, you can't find a child coming with phone or anything. Even if you think about it, you know that when I'm coming to the gate, they check me at the gate. So their children are careful with it. So I think schools can imbibe, there are things school can imbibe that can help check this thing, because children think they are smart these days. You know, they're smarter than what we had those times. So schools can actually help. That's what I'm just trying to say. They can find a way to help, because things happen in the school. I know a lot of things I've heard from my kids that I don't even know how to tell the school. You know, if I sometimes I even I chip it in for the management to know. But you know, schools sometimes they try to cover themselves so that they can look good and all that. But so many things happen that I think schools can help if they put more eye down to watch what is happening.
Yeah, as I'm just listening to you, I can imagine where, you know, people have access to these devices. Next thing, they are taking nude pictures and using it to blackmail the students. They are recording things.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that, you know, the schools should definitely look into. But how about schools who will say, okay, but we need them to bring devices. We need them to bring maybe not a phone, but maybe a laptop, a tablet. And you know, on a tablet and a laptop, you still have access to the internet and you can still do WhatsApp. You can go onto other social media accounts. They are desktop versions. How do you balance, okay, giving your child a device for educational purposes, but also ensuring that they don't abuse that privilege?
Are you talking about in school or at home?
Yes, in school.
And so when it comes...
the school can insist that you must give your child a phone or a device or a tablet. And you are saying, no, I don't want my child to have a tablet or a phone or a laptop, but the school is insisting that they want them to be digitally compliant.
In that case, I think the school, it now comes down to the school. Okay, let me give an example of my children's school. The university they belong to, they are part of, they regulate the Wi-Fi. In fact, it's funny. They don't want the children to have too much access to, they can't stop them anyway because they work with device, but they regulate it. How they regulate it? They regulate the Wi-Fi. So it's difficult to even call them in school. You want to call, you hear her saying, Mommy, there's no network today. So they sort of regulate the network in a way that it's more active in the library, in the school, in the classes, but in the hostel. So it helps the children. So what the school is trying to achieve. So they regulate how much you spend on social media. You read your book more. If you want to have access to a network, go to the library, go to the school environment, go to the classrooms. So it's their way, and it works. It's frustrating for parents because communicating with them is a little difficult when they're in their hostel, because they believe that's when the children are relaxed, they can browse and all that. So the network there is very low. So I mean, that's the way it works. So in schools, in secondary schools, I believe if the schools want to do something, there's things they can do. Yes, like my students' school, the secondary school, they have an iPad. They use it for notes and all that. They can cut the Wi-Fi, or they can monitor. Each class has class tutors. The class tutors can monitor how many are there in the class, can monitor what the child is doing. These things can be done. You know, sometimes I feel our schools, they are a little bit lazy monitoring the children. It actually can be done if they want to do it.
That's amazing. Like regulating the Wi-Fi, yes, because if you're really using it for schoolwork, then it's going to...
So it works in the school. They're just strictly in the library, in the school. But in the hostel, you can't get them if they...
But on the flip side, some might say that, is that not a bit too much if they're in a university?
I think so too, but...
I mean, if it's secondary school, maybe and primary school, you can understand.
Yeah, but you know, that's I say, is what works for them, because you find a lot of the graduates from that school come out with first class. First class is so easy there. So maybe they have tried it in the past and found out, okay, this works, and that's what they're doing. But it's frustrating, just like I said. Sometimes they feel they go overboard, but if it gets results too.
I guess you can't please everyone. I know some people say, no, that you're not preparing them for the real world. But let's even say, okay, they are using these devices. Are there things that you can also put on the devices to ensure that maybe you block certain sites. Maybe that's another conversation we should have.
Yeah.
Like, what are things that parents should be aware of, that some of these children, like, we might not even know that this is what they are up to, and to block them.
Yeah, that can work also. That's talking about the children in secondary school, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that can also work. But you know, these children are smart. Like, okay, let me give you an instance I had. My daughter, she posts on status. So sometimes when she posts, you know, they don't want she felt, okay, there was something she posted and the dad saw it and said, what is that you posted on status? Bring it down. You know, so after then, when she posts, she had noticed that there is what they do, you block the parents. I didn't know that existed.
You just exclude one of your contacts.
I was not seeing her status. So it was later someone told me that her sister told me that, Mommy, Tekle blocked you, so you will not be seeing what she's posting. I was like, oh, wow. You know, so that did not to her. I better put us back. So what I'm trying to say that we just do what we do, but the kids, they're actually smart. They know how to.
So do you think we parents should have conversations with their kids? Like, look, I know you want to post things, but these are the things you should post, you should not post. Or do you think once they get to a certain age, they should post anything they want to post? Do you think parents should block their children or not?
No.
Should you think children should block their parents? So since you don't want to see it, let me go back, remove it from your...
So for me, I feel, see, one way that works for parents now, engage your children. Make them your friend. That makes it so easy, because there are a lot of things you cannot monitor. We can try our best, but like, I'm trying to picture myself when I was in university, you know, my dad was very tough, you know, following us, as far as even following us to the school, university, to be sure, you know, but I know a lot of things happened because of the training he had given me. It wasn't because he was following me. So I think now, yes, we'll try to monitor our children, especially now that so many things are not as they were. Make your children your friend. Make them your friends so they can talk to you. You know, so that's what is working for me. So if anything happening in school, they call me. So you'll be surprised the kind of thing they even tell me, something that you never expect. But that's the kind of relationship I've formed with them, so that so you can discuss with them and say, this, you shouldn't post this, you shouldn't do this. You know, so converse with them. Don't make it so strict that they are afraid to tell you things. That's the one that is actually really bad. So make them your friend so they can tell you everything.
So it's about the relationship and communication.
Yes, communicate with them. It's very important.
Okay, but would you ask them for their passwords to go and check their emails as a parent? Would you ask them for their passwords to check their social media to see, or is it something that you should have access to it for a certain number of years?
You mean password to their phone, to their personal? That's like
password to their emails, their social media accounts, password to their phones. It's almost like when you have a child that you say, oh, you can lock the room, but you have the key to the room so you can open at any time.
I think,
how do you respect their need for privacy, but also be able to really monitor them? Because you can't monitor what you don't have access to.
Okay, so when you talk about like email, is it email, or I don't know which angle to come in from? Or
Let's start with email, then social media, and then access to the phone.
For my kids, I can't see what I would just say. You know, I don't know. Let me speak with my kids. When they leave the house, whatever you have taught them. So what I'm trying to say, this monitoring password, gets to a point, it might not really be necessary, because the values you've imbibed in them, what you've taught them, will help put them right. So you don't really need too much close. Those close monitoring might actually come earlier when the children are growing. Yes, they need those kind of close monitoring. But as they're growing, you really don't need much. If you have done a good job, if you have, okay, in quote, if you have done something good, like my kids are as open as telling me, Mommy, they tell me things I might not have access to if I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Without asking them.
Yes, I don't need to ask them. They tell me these things. So so when you put too much close, it even makes them to want to be more defensive, more to keep to themselves, because they are like, okay, no, we don't really need that. So I think from that, as they're growing up, form a good relationship with them. Don't be too tough. Allow them, so that when they grow, when they leave the house, which they will definitely do, what you have taught them will carry them through. So you don't need to be putting close, right? Like right now, I don't need to put an eye on my daughter's eye. I know sometimes she'll tell me, I'm doing, you've taught me well. I don't need to do that. I have rest that I know they know the right thing to do. So that close monitoring comes earlier. That's what I think. But as they're growing, you really don't need much of it.
You know, it's interesting because there are some couples that they don't know each other's password to their phones.
Yes.
And they'll say it's because I don't want you to see what is inside my phone. While
That's
another will say, oh, he has my password, because what if there's an emergency, and what am I even putting on my phone that I'm hiding?
Yeah,
so that's where that debate of do you have access to the person's phone?
Yeah, but children and spouse is two different things. Yeah, so they are different discussions. So for children, that my own take is just be their friend. If you be their friend, it's easy to navigate those areas. But for couples now, some couples don't, like my husband has my password. I know his password, but I don't check his phone. If I want to check, I can check. I don't bother. You understand my point? But I know people, in fact, there's an issue. We're still trying to cancel them. So they're young couples. It's still issue of password, no password. She wants the husband's password, and the husband doesn't want to give her a password. It's a lot. So this issue of password is a challenge with couples.
You don't think that sometimes, even as a child, the fact that like your mommy knows the password to your phone, that you yourself, you'll be a bit more careful with the kind of text messages that will come in, like, imagine if my mommy comes and takes this phone, I should now see that I'm chatting or see that I'm on this website or so.
Do you know the funny thing is that I don't know their password actually, but they are not scared whether I'll check. I don't check. I don't really. Maybe it's just the way we have. I don't go to start scrutinize. The time I knew that I had to now start getting a little bit more, because I was using the training I gave the first one. Just like I told you, she's not really bothered about this. I didn't know the second one was completely different. So I was still following her with the way I was following the first. When I realized that I shouldn't do that, when I was telling about this checking of new things and all that, I was like, okay. So this child is still very young. She doesn't know what she's doing. So I have to help her put closer eye on what is happening. When I knew, what I did was to go to the school, report the case. Then I started putting an eye, the password. I started checking her phone, checking her bag, monitoring the friends she had in school. When there was even a time I went to school during the open day, I had to call her friends. Me, I'm actually, when it comes to children, I'm very open and bold. I go to their school, I discuss that, so they are scared. When we don't come to our school, we don't want trouble.
I love it.
So I went to school. I didn't really cause a scene, but I made their friends know that, see, if it's my daughter you're talking about, it's the mother you have to contend with, So I wanted to know her friends, so they will know that I'm into the child of this. I'm in the life of this child. It's not. I get my point. So for that child, I had to come close and really
know all the passwords and check the phone.
For the first one, I don't need to do that.
Okay. So it's more like a case-by-case basis.
Yes, it's a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
It's a case-by-case basis.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And, sometimes parents don't even know where to start from.
Yes.
Like, they're so overwhelmed. And like you said, they just give them these devices maybe to keep them busy or to do their assignments. Yes. And they can be susceptible to, all this peer pressure. So let's talk about peer pressure. In your case, whether with your children or other people that or maybe even interactions with the school, do you have instances where people are pressurized, like children, to show up in a certain way online because they want people to follow them, to like them, to repost? Because there's a lot of fake life out there. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pretending to be who you are not, because that's what's on social media. And how, if like in those cases, like how can parents be their friend but also still be strict to say, I understand you want this, but no, it's not time for this now? Okay,
talking about children.
Yes, children.
Okay, so just like I've been saying, I would like to use my own practical example. So peer pressure is real when it comes to children. In fact, that's the part I think parents also need to put an eye when it comes to kids. It's really real. It's real. So I know my second child, I keep using her. I'm sure she's seen this video. I always, thank God I didn't mention her name anyway. So she's the one I know when it comes to her friends. There's always the pressure of she's easily influenced. She's easily influenced by her friends. As if she sees something she likes, she wants it. If she sees them doing what she wants to follow, So, so in this case, I had to, just like I've told you all through, I had to come close to her to make, it was a lot of battle, because it was even still until when at the point she wanted to, I'm tired of the school, I want to leave the school. Because she got to the point, the friends, she was not talking to anybody in her class, a lot of peer pressure because of the kind of personality that she has. But it helped. What I did was I kept talking, counseling, making her understand. Sometimes it was difficult but in her case, if she didn't have a mom that was really on ground, it would have been very difficult. Because the pressure from her friends were a lot. Pressure of trying to keep up. Pressure of trying to be like them. Pressure of her friends her friend is doing a birthday. She wants to be there. She wants to dress. So many things, in short. So yeah, that peer pressure is real. So it still comes down to the parent, the mother.
And do you think that, having access to these devices increases the peer pressure? Because I know when I was in secondary school, like peer pressure was, okay, we're doing this, come and do it with us, or come and attend this event, or come and be our friends, or we want to do like the wrong things. Or sometimes peer pressure can also be positive, but that's just contained. But with online, you can be chatting with someone in America, someone in another state. So it's no longer just pressure, say, from your immediate environment, but also like that online community, the algorithm, like, oh, this person that has 10,000 followers because she's dressing like this. And I think it's even something that still affects even adults.
Adults, yeah, it's not just children, even adults as well. So that's true. So social media really, I think it helps to push that a lot forward. And it's not, and your point is just, it's a fake life, because sometimes what we see online is really not what it is. So I don't think it's only children, it affects everyone, not really everyone, adults.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be like who they are seeing, but it's not so. But I think if I'll use that for children, it's still trying to ensure that, we keep them close and speak to them and counsel them, make them understand it's really not what you see is really not what it is. So that's what I can say for them.
Yeah, I think having those conversations as a family, what will you say about having like about family values? You've spoken a lot about I bring them close, I talk to them, but what do you actually say to them? How do you actually get through to a teenager? How do you get through to somebody who is, probably listening to one influencer on social media and is like, well, mommy is old school. Like, you don't understand, mommy. It's not your time. Like, how do you get through? How do you have those real and open conversations? Because I'm sure people are watching and like, okay, yes, you say you talk, but how can I start from today to start engaging my children?
You can use yourself. Engage them. When I mean talk to them, I'm a Christian. I use the Bible. I make a lot of references with the Bible so they can see it. I pray with them all the time. I say words of affirmation. So I use the Bible to speak with them. I read the Bible with them every day, and I also use my own experience. I don't try to pretend what I'm not. When I was growing up, I had a lot of experiences. So when I talk to them, and they know, when I start to say, mommy, I come back again, yes, I'm going to tell us all those stories, So I tell them what my experience was. And I don't paint it black. I tell them as it is. Sometimes they'll be like, you're going too far. Yes, I tell them as it is. So when I say I talk to them, I don't just paint it. I let them know really what it is, what this can lead to. I show you when sometimes it might even be until I'm like, do you see what I was saying? Or do you hear? So I take what happens around, practical things, and teach them, not just theory. Sometimes when things happen, they say, oh, I saw what you were saying. I know you're going to say, didn't I tell you? So because the way I tell them, so when they see it happen, they'll be like, oh, I don't know if you get it. So when I talk to them, I use practical things. I use my own examples when I was in school, the kind of experience I had, things that they can actually relate with.
And when you have that kind of relationship and there's enough openness for a child to come forward, or your children to say, oh, mommy, I know you told me to do this, but I did this for whatever reason. I'm sorry. How do you deal with that in such a way that you don't stop them from coming the next time to open up? Because I'm sure there are some parents who are watching and are thinking, well, I've told my child off, now my child doesn't want to say anything because maybe the way they disciplined, or the way they, you gave a case of someone just taking all the phones away. So, and you said these kids are smart. So how do you deal with that? I mean, do you subscribe to gentle parenting?
Yeah, it happens. So I've experienced that, but I always try to encourage them to come back. In as much as sometimes we've had situations in which I spoke with them and it made them to withdraw. I know that withdrawal, when a child withdraws, is not good. It's even more dangerous. Like my second child, as I always say, she's very reserved. She's a quiet type. So she has tendencies to actually withdraw and then keep quiet. So sometimes things happen. Yes, I might give it to you hard. Of course, sometimes, like with issue of that, for the nude picture stuff, we really gave it to her really hard. At the point I was like, let this girl not just withdraw into herself and all that. But sometimes after that, you still bring the child close and try to explain, why it's like this and why it's like that. So that's where the peer pressure comes. So it's like a battle when it comes to children, is you just keep at it. Because after pulling them close, the friends are there to still try to do the part they are, they try to do. But as parents, you still come, you bring them with this hand, you bring them close, you explain why you are doing what you are doing, and just put God inside. The God factor is part of it also anyway. That's the part I've not really mentioned, because in as much as I'm doing this, sometimes it's really not easy, but with the God factor in, I think it balances it out, and that's what has been working for me.
I want to bring the conversation back to this technology thing, because I find that sometimes our children, they don't understand the rigor of studying, of going to the library, of opening a textbook, because they can just type something in on their phone or their devices, and the work has all been done for them. Yeah. So how do you get them to still appreciate the efficiency a tool that's powered by AI brings, but still teach them the rigor of taking time out to open a physical book and to study it, and to keep the phone aside and to do their research, go and get different books? Or what's your approach?
It's difficult to do that now because AI and social media has made life so easy. So as if you're trying to put them through, but my mom she taught us for more than 40 years. Well, I mean, she's a teacher for as long as 40 years.
Wow.
So she actually taught me when I was in nursery 1, so you can imagine how long that has been. So she taught us to read. She taught us to, so when you have a teacher as a mom, she taught us. So it made me, when I was in secondary school, I read a lot of books. I was one of the best in English in my class then, because how I love to read. So I imbibe that to my children. So even now, even without social media, no social media, if you come to my house, I have a shelf with a lot of books. I keep buying storybooks, so they love, naturally, they love to research, they love to read. So I don't know, maybe that's that area, it's helped me to balance. So, but the social media part, we can't rule that part out. AI, searching, using the internet, that can be, but I try to balance it out by making them, manual books. I buy them during holidays, like my son, he's also, he loves to read as well. Even all of them, they love reading. I always buy books, different kind of books, different kind of literatures. Like now he's on holidays, I'll say, go and take 2 hours, read your book, read something else. So with that, they help to balance it out.
So parents should cultivate that reading time, where they drop the devices and you buy hard copy books that they can actually take and read. Because I think some parents also feel like, I don't want my child to always be on the laptop or the tablet, because they can't really control or monitor. But with a book, you practically know what they are doing.
Yeah, so I think parents should imbibe that. Teach them how to read. Encourage them to read, to write. Like my daughter now, she's reading English in school. She loves arts. It's just her. So what she's doing now is animation. The reading culture we have imbibed is what she writes books now, hoping to publish them soon. So it's what I've imbibed in them from small. So I think parents should do that. It's also help. We can't rule out social media, AI. No, we can't rule that part out. But let them also know that there's another part of it. They can turn off the screen. Like my son, I told him today, because he's at home today, I told him 2 hours you can watch TV. After that, leave the screen. Go and read books. So I make sure every holiday I buy a lot of books. I keep buying a lot of books.
So is that balance?
Yes. So
have you had a situation where you teach your child something, or they learn something in school, and then they come back and tell you, but this is what AI said, this is what social media said? Mommy, are you saying that you know more than social media?
I've actually not had that experience. So
okay.
When the child will come back and tell you what you said is something different from social media.
No,
they can tell me from their teacher.
Yes, especially their teacher.
It's the teacher I know I've had,
okay.
But not social media.
Okay. And as we begin to bring this conversation to a close, what would you say are the greatest things that have helped you in raising 3 children, and also still balancing your marriage, like the commitments that is required from your work, your marriage, your spiritual life, all of that, and still, being involved and being intentional with your children?
Okay, what works for me?
Yes.
When I see children not well brought up, that is something that I don't like to see. When I see children, that's not when you see them on the streets talking to another. Like, I'll give an instance if you allow me. I went to when my daughter was graduating from school, so I took her to do her hair, and then there was a lady, a young girl of 11 in the salon. And I came in and I was asking the girl, obviously the madam was not around, so maybe I thought the girl was like an assistant. Naturally, I wanted to pay because I left my daughter there to return. So I wanted to pay and then leave. It's as simple as the girl collecting the money. But this girl, 11, she was so rude. In fact, I don't like shouting on kids, but for the first time I found I just lost myself because she was, rude. If there's anything higher than that word, she didn't even want to look at me. She was on her phone, pressing the phone, checking, and I was standing there and she didn't even pay attention to what I was just looking. I had to ask her, I said, how old are you? Say 11. It was later, long and short, later the neighbors had to come and collect the money. The girl refused to collect the money from me. I didn't like that. In fact, when I got to I was so pained because I can see a child of 11 acting that way. So what happens when she's 15, when she's 16, when she's 17? So when I see those kind of things, it hurts me. So that's why when it comes to my children, I told myself, whatever it's going to cost, I'm going to be intentional about it. I think it's been intentional, so I think that's what drives me when it comes. And then with my home, you need a strong support system actually, which my husband is very supportive, my mom, so they also help to balance family and then work. I think basically.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on for Families Podcast.
Thank you so much.
You've given us a lot to think about. I think one of the things I'll be living with is the fact that every child is different, and if you don't spend time with them, you won't know what works for them. What will work for child A might be very different from child B, and it's just about having that close relationship with them. And we can't really run away from AI and these devices, so we have to find a way to make it work. Yes, and to live with it. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome to the part where I tell you what I'm loving now. So what am I loving? Please don't judge me. I'm loving kids parties. Okay, not just any kids parties, Nigerian kids parties, because our planners are trying, hey, like there's some kids parties that you go and the child in you just wants to come out. I mean, I don't go and jump on the bouncy castle, even though I want to. But I'm happy when I see my children jumping on the bouncy castle and enjoying the face painting. But you see, there are some children's parties now that they also understand that the adults need to be engaged. So they have some things that adults can do, or children in the mind, but adults in the body. So there was a children's party I attended, and they had this painting thing, not just the usual sip and paint. This one is they brought flower pots that you would paint, and after you paint the flower pots, there's actually a plant to put inside the flower pot. I just told my husband that, please, though, we have to go and do this thing. He's like, are you not sure it's for, like, are you sure it's not for children? I say, yes, but I asked, and they're like, oh no, I can't come. Guess what? My husband and I went. We started painting, and next thing, guess who came? Our kids. Guess who wanted to paint with us? Our kids. And they ended up painting with us. But it was really nice, painting with them and the plants. So, I mean, kids parties, that's just one activity. But there are so many activities that, they also try to engage the adults too. You have they'll say, oh, the first person to bring their mommy out, the first person to bring their daddy's phone, the first person to, and then you're also part and parcel of the fun, the enjoyment, the food. And I think Nigerian planners, or should I say Nigerian parents, they go an extra mile to just even ensure that the place is like nicely decorated, is themed, and the chairs, they have like the cute chairs for the little children, and then the adult chairs, and all sorts of food and drinks. It's almost like an adult party. Sometimes they even say that, are you sure that these children's parties is not just an excuse for the adults to have fun? I don't know, because my kids really enjoy the children's parties they attend, but I too enjoy, maybe because there's a child in me, and I just think that Niger children's parties, we've stepped it up. We have, not to put pressure on anyone, not to put any pressure on anyone, but I mean, I went for a children's party. Sorry, I shout out to Radiance Cookware because Nancy has been on this show before, and you won't believe it. The MC engaged the parents in trivia, guess the song, completely lyrics, answer questions, and I won a Radiance Cookware pot. Like, how amazing is that? So yes, I love kids parties. Who thought that I would be leaving the kids party with my own party pack? Well, it's not a party pack, it's even better than a party pack, like a pot. And if you know how much I love pots, pots from Radiance Cookware, you know how happy I was. So you can see why that with these few points of mine, I hope I've been able to convince you that what I'm loving now is children's parties. So yes, and my children, they love the parties, and I don't embarrass them. What are you loving now? Let me know. I hope I'm not the only one. This is the part where I answer your burning questions. So if you have a question, please leave us a comment, slide into our DM. Yes, get in touch. I'll try my possible best to answer your question. So I know this question has come up several times, where a child will come and they'll be calling someone older than them by name. And then you as the parent, you'll be like, don't say this, auntie this, uncle that, miss this, Mr. that. And some parents are like, why should my child call someone auntie or uncle when the people are not their aunties or their uncles? Or, what's the age gap? So, I think in this part of the world, specifically Nigeria, we're very big on respect. We're very big on culture. And yes, different cultures ask for different things. Some, like Yoruba culture, you're expected to curtsy or to kneel. And as a boy, you're expected to dobale, that is go flat, like prostrate on the floor. So, if you're not part of that culture, it might seem a bit strange to you. So the first thing I'll say is your culture could guide you on, how you approach greeting, how you approach calling people who are older than you. Like Yoruba culture, again, they're very big. Even if somebody is older than you by one day, auntie, sister, brother, uncle, or maybe you marry into a family as the wife. I don't know that thing. Like the wife is expected to be calling the husband's siblings, even the ones younger, like uncle. I don't get that part, but I've heard of it. So I think, one, it depends on your culture, and two, if you're not very big on auntie and uncle, you can use miss or Mr. or master or Mrs. You can teach your children to say yes ma, yes sir, or yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, yes ma, no ma. Is a thing of respect. We're very big on respect here. And the last thing you would want is to allow your children to be perceived as being rude. I'm not saying that you should force them to call someone that you're not comfortable calling them auntie and uncle, but I don't think there's anything wrong in saying yes ma'am or no ma'am, because even abroad, that quote unquote they're not big on respect, you go somewhere and whether the person is older than you or younger than you, just as courtesy or being polite, they're like, oh no ma'am, I can't do that, or yes ma'am. So that's what I think, that if you don't want to use auntie and uncle, that's fine. You can use Mr., master, miss, yes miss, miss this, master that, Mr. this, Mrs. that, doctor this. We're very big on people are very big on their titles. Engineer this, nothing wrong, chief this, I think it goes a long way to just be courteous. But I hear you if you don't want to use auntie and uncle, and there are alternatives. But that name, except of course, it's an environment where everybody is being called by their first name, like the work environment. But I don't expect that a child will go to school and call their teacher by their first name. So again, it also depends on like what the rules and regulations are for that environment, whether it's a workplace, a school, a church, a mosque, a play group, a daycare, whatever it is really. Let's just try to be understanding, and do what's necessary. I can't imagine like you go and visit the king, like you just a Yoruba king. I mean, you kneel. So I don't know. Are you on the fence on this, or do you think come see come sa? What works for you? And I hope I've been able to answer this question as honestly and just from what has worked for me. I'm big on respect, and I'm happy for my kids to add ma and sir, auntie and uncle, Mr. and Miss. So yeah, keep the questions coming in, and I'll try my best every time to answer them. Wow, what a show it has been. You know, one thing about ForFamilies Podcast, we keep it real. Like devices, AI, kids, control. Where do you draw the line? How do you draw your kids close to you, but you still discipline them? You still ensure that there are boundaries and you look out for them. It's tough being a parent now. I think our parents had it easier where they were not contending with the pressure that comes from social media, AI, the technology tools, and how things have just become a whole lot simpler, but also more complex too and complicated. Yeah, it's almost like a paradox. And that was such an interesting conversation. And I just loved her honesty. I mean, after 20 years of marriage and 3 kids, and for me, the biggest lesson is that every child is different and you must make out time to understand every child. You must make out time to understand what works for each child, and then you act accordingly. But communication is so key. And I said you should not judge me, but what I'm loving now, kids parties. Am I not my mother's child? Yes, I'm a child now. I'm a child of God too. I love kids parties. My kids enjoy going to the parties, but I think I also enjoy maybe a bit too much, but I love kids parties. Nigerian children's parties, because I don't know if they do it like we do it. You know, Nigeria know they carry last. And my advice when it comes to respect, calling people by name or by their title, is to look at, you know, your culture, look at what is required of that environment, and a little bit of respect goes a long way. Yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, sister, auntie, uncle. But don't be doing sister, auntie, uncle and you'll still be rude to them because that one too is there. Sister, can you come? No. Like, let's be polite, let's be courteous, but let's also be aware of, you know, the culture, the nuances, the environment. And like I said, I won't expect my kids to go to any school and call their teacher by name. We don't do that. No. So yeah, it's been quite a show on ForFamilies Podcast, and I really enjoyed. I know I say it all the time, but I really do enjoy, you know, this show, being your host. And I remain Isabella Adediji till I come your way next time. Keep it locked, subscribe, tap the notification bell, and follow ForFamilies Podcast across all social media platforms.